Before BMW 6 Series, before Audi's 7 Series, before Porsche's Panamera, it all started with this. ISO boom. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. Either way, you're much appreciated. As you can see by the intro, we're going to be talking about one of Mercedes' most infamous models, the CLS. Specifically, the second generation. The grandfather for all these new Grand Coupe design cars. It's the one that started it all. So when Mercedes builds the first four-door coupe, they get Aura. But when I
win a 20v1, I get negative 10,000 Aura?
Jokes aside, before I start this video, I just want to apologize for my inconsistency of posting. I got no excuse. Recently, I've been a bit more in the creative room, doing some more work behind the scenes. So after this video's up, it's Wednesday right now. I'm going to try and get it up by Sunday. I have a busy weekend, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have to edit, but that's the goal. So after that, after this video's up, weekly uploads are going to be a thing. I'm claiming it right now. But with all that out the way, let's get started. So to understand where it all started, we got to go back to 2004. The first year of the CLS. This generation was the C218 and was the first car to have the four-door coupe design. And as I said earlier, the grandfather of every four-door coupe. It's the one that started it all. This generation lasted until 2010, which means the second generation, which is called the W218, started in 2011 until 2018. And that's what we're going to go over today. It's the second out of, I believe, 3 generations of the CLS, and in my opinion, by far the best. The first one is a good looking car, but to me the second one is just blows it out of the park. The third one is not even a CLS anymore, really. The CLS63 died with the second generation. So like I said, this generation ran from 2011 to 2018, but received a facelift in 2015. But we're gonna go over the years in a bit. So saying this car was a four-door coupe, in North American markets, it came only in the coupe, the four-door coupe. It also had a shooting brake, which is the wagon version, which was, I believe, a Europe only exclusive. We did not get it over here in North America. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't even know these were a thing until I was in Rome 2.5 years ago and I saw one. I'm like, what the damn? It is a beautiful looking wagon and it is very unknown. Most of you probably don't even know about it until this video, so you're welcome. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of wagons, but this is a beautiful car. Like, honestly speaking, wagons are probably like my second least favorite car style besides like hatchbacks. I'm not a fan of hatchbacks. Like, just for me, there's no car that looks better as a wagon. I just love sedans. That's me. That's my body. But yeah, those were the two body styles that it came in. Beautiful four-door coupe and a beautiful wagon. So 2011, the first year of the second generation CLS. To get a bit more of an understanding of the CLS, it's built on the E-Class chassis, a sportier, depending on your opinion, better looking E-Class. Exact same interior as the E-Class. Like, I'll put side-by-side photos and it looks the same. I did hear that the CLS is supposed to be in between the E and the S-Class, but I'm not sure it gets any features that the E-Class doesn't. But it is slightly bigger than the E-Class by, I believe, 2 inches, which is a lot of inches. But I'll have the measurements right here. So saying that, it also came with the same engine in the E63 of this era, the M157, which in my opinion, after the M156, is the best sounding AMG engine ever made. So in 2011, the base model CLS63 came with 518 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque, and these came with a 7-speed multi-clutch AMG speed shift transmission. And they were offered in rear-wheel drive and optional 4MATIC. So saying that it came in rear-wheel drive and 4MATIC, The rear-wheel drive did the 0 to 60 in 4.3 seconds, and the 4MATIC did it in 3.9. These came with a mechanical limited slip differential and AMG ride control suspension, which are able to control the softness and stiffness of the suspension. And they had a top speed of 155 miles per hour. It wasn't until 2012 where they introduced the new performance package. This was a $7,000 option and only available in 2012 and part of 2013. So the performance package boosts up the horsepower from 518 to 550 and then 590 pound-feet of torque. These are very torquey engines. It also raised the top speed to 186 miles per hour and were only available in a rear-wheel drive. So due to the extra power, the 0 to 60 for the rear-wheel drive now is 4.1 instead of 4.3. How they boosted the power, it was just from an ECU remap, and they bumped up the PSI from 14.5 to 18. Other features this package came with was a carbon fiber engine cover, optional larger front brakes, more aggressively tuned transmission, and an optional performance Alcantara wrap steering wheel. But moving on to 2013, this is when they stopped producing the performance package and they introduced the new S variant, which is basically a step up from the performance package. So if you saw my last video about the C63, it's like P30 to the P31 package. That's like the same difference, you could say. So the performance packages were produced in early 2013, and then the S variations were introduced shortly after in mid 2013. Some of the key differences of the S model was even more power now, 577 horsepower, but with the same 590 pound-feet of torque. In many markets, basically all the left-hand drive markets, the CLS came standard with 4MATIC. Only in those other right-hand drive markets were you able to get a CLS63S with rear-wheel drive. So these cars also now came with the electronically controlled limited slip differential and an upgraded AMG ride control sport suspension. So it's a step up from the one that was in the performance package model. And visually, these came with red AMG brakes, S badging around the car, and slightly different style, optional wheels, and trim. So now the S with the 4MATIC did the 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, which for I believe a 4,200 pound car, that's moving. Moving on to 2014, the biggest change to the base model CLS is they now came with a standard 550 horsepower and slightly bumped up 531 pound-feet of torque. So they now came with the standard horsepower that was in the performance package, but less torque. And they're also available in both S and non-S versions. It wasn't until 2015 where the big change came, the facelift. So the facelift received newly designed front and rear bumpers and newly designed headlights and taillights. Slightly designed taillights. They're the same shape, but they're slightly different, you know? This is also the first time in the North American markets where the non-AMG versions, you were able to get a V6, which was the CLS 400, which is the twin turbo V6. Before then, you're only able to get the CLS 550, which is the M278, I believe, the 4.7 twin turbocharged V8. We're not talking about that. We're talking about AMG here. So these also came with a freshly revised interior and new upgraded infotainment. So what's kind of funny, quick comparison. So the E63 of this generation, it had the same interior before, but the facelift CLS got a bigger screen and slightly different buttons. The E63 had the same in-dash screen and kept the same older style buttons. But yeah, it's a little fun fact. After the facelift, there wasn't really many changes through 2016, 17, and 18. In 2016, there was slight refinements in the command software. In 2017 was actually the final production year in some markets, and some models received minor driver assistance and infotainment features. And then 2018 was the last year of the W218 and the last year of the CLS63 as a whole, because the generation after came as a 53. So that's why many people say the true successor to the CLS is the GT63S. The 4-door coupe, big V8, luxurious. It makes sense. But with all those years out the way, let's talk about the car's ability to build power, because it has a lot of it. So with it being a twin turbo V8, it's not hard to bump more power out of this engine with just an ECU remap. With the ECU remap alone, it should put you in the high 600 range. I've seen examples all between the 660 to like 680-ish range. I'll have examples on the screen. So again, from just a flash, you're getting around 100 horsepower. If you want to take it a step further, go to stage 2. I know people don't like the stages like terms, but it makes sense to me. So if you want to go stage 2 with downpipes, intakes, and the tune, this will put you in the high 600s to low 700 horsepower range and well over 800 foot-pounds of torque, which is pretty crazy. But if that's not enough for you, you can take it a step further and go the upgraded turbo route. And I've seen a lot of different options for this. So again, I'll show some on the screen. I've seen some from around the 880-ish wheel, 900 wheel, and then one from WiseTech that says it can provide up to 1,008 horsepower. So these engines are capable of handling over 1,000 horsepower. You can also do other upgrades such as meth, and yeah, that's about it for building power wise. So long story short, you can get a lot of power out of these, and you have the 4-wheel drive system to put it down. But now with the fun stuff out the way, we gotta talk about the more serious stuff. Any issues this car came with, and its reliability. And overall, it is a fairly reliable engine. A lot of the issues can get solved with preventative maintenance, and those issues I'll go over right now. So with the M278 and the M157, these both had weak coolant lines because they were made of plastic. Over time, due to heating up, cooling down, they become brittle and can crack. So coolant leaks aren't rare for this car. But like I said, upgrading your coolant lines before this happens is a way to get past it. But also just oil leaks in general for this engine. It has a lot of plastic components, which is kind of sad to say as an AMG. Due to them being plastic, over time, like I said, they get brittle, they wear. So leaks are more common over around 110,000 kilometers, which is I believe around 80,000 miles. I don't know. I'll have the conversion. So that's just something you definitely need to look out for, because if any of these gaskets or plastic things fail and coolant gets into the oil or any mixture, it's gonna be a bad day for you. But like I said, that is avoidable. But yeah, that's just something you definitely need to look out for. So besides your liquids mixing and potentially making the engine shit itself, it is a fairly reliable engine. Again, just besides that stuff. But like many AMGs, they do require, well, cars in general, but especially higher performance cars, they do require regular maintenance. Very key to stay on top of it. So this car coming out in 2011 until 2018, some of the competitors of this time would be, so for Audi, if you go for the pre-facelift and the non-S model, the S7 would be comparable to it. But if you go facelift or just S model in general, the RS7 would be a closer competitor. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So the 2015 RS7, so these came with a 4-liter twin turbocharged V8, producing 560 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. So they are fairly close in horsepower to the AMG, but a lot less torque. And these came with a 8-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission and put the power down to all 4 wheels, quattro. And saying that, these actually had a very close 0 to 60 time, even though they had less power and torque, of 3.7 seconds, which is still very impressive. No one's gonna notice 0.1 of a second when you're in the car. And initially these did come with the same top speed of 155, but then with optional dynamic package, they increased it to 174, but then with dynamic plus, it could reach up to 190 miles per hour, which is, that bitch is moving. Of course, I'm biased. I'm taking the CLS over the RS7 all day. But the new RS7s, those things are beautiful. But we're talking about the 2015 and that generation, not the new ones. So for BMW, the competitor for this would be the BMW M6. So these came with a 4.4-liter twin turbocharged V8, the S63, producing the same horsepower as the Audi, 560. But if you got the competition, they came with 575, which is just a little bit less than the AMG. And these actually had the lowest amount of torque with 500 pound-feet of torque, and with the competition 502. Big bump up. Again, being BMW, these were the only cars offered with a manual, a 6-speed, but the automatic transmission was a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission. And these only came rear-wheel drive. So 0 to 60, these did it in 4 seconds. And with the competition, 3.8. It had the same top speed of 155 miles per hour. And then with competition, or the M drivers package, came with 189. So I've never driven any of these cars. I've just, seen videos about them. And if you know the Trio, the BMW one offers the most sporty package. It'll be the stiffest suspension. It'll be the least comfortable, but it's sportier, so it's going to sacrifice comfort for that. In my opinion, of course, I'm not biased at all. Mercedes, from what I've heard from people who have driven all of these cars, it is the most exciting one to drive. It sounds the best, looks the best. But yeah, all these cars in this segment I can definitely appreciate and are beautiful cars in my opinion, especially the CLS. So that's it. That basically wraps up the W218 CLS, the end of an era, the end of the 63S, and where the CLS died, in my opinion, really. The next generation, it looks like a big CLA. It's not it. So if you know me and you saw my video, you know I'm a big fan of the W212 E63S. It's kind of hard to put one over the other. In my opinion, if you go pre-facelift, like if you go 2014 E63 and CLS, so it's the facelift E63 and non-facelift CLS. I know it's a bad comparison. E63 clears, but the facelift CLSs I'm not gonna lie, they go crazy. There is not a bad angle on these cars. Every angle it looks amazing. There's actually a guy at my gym that had one, and I talked to him about it. It's a matte black, big body. He said he was stage 2, downpipes, tune, everything. I'm not gonna lie, he was the most jacked guy at the gym. I mean, muscles and Mercedes, let's go hand in hand. I took a picture of it, so.
Big body CLS63S. Fuck.
There it is. I think that bitch is tough, super tough. But yeah, that wraps up my breakdown of the CLS63. If you like the video, drop a like, comment anything, I don't know, sub if you're new, sub if you want to see more, if you want more vehicle breakdowns, anything like that. Thank you.